In this video, I'll explain vSphere distributed switches. vSphere distributed switches are available with the vSphere Enterprise Plus Licensing Edition, and they provide many features that the vSphere standard switch does not. The vSphere distributed switch is also more scalable. So, for example, in this slide we see 4 ESXi hosts. And let's assume that we're using a standard virtual switch. So on the first host, let's say I create a virtual switch and 2 port groups. And if I want a matching configuration on the other hosts, I'll need to manually create the same configuration on each of those hosts. And this pattern repeats itself every time I add a new ESXi host. Now let's say that instead of a vSphere standard switch, we go with a vSphere distributed switch. What do I mean by distributed? Well, it just means that this switch is created in one place and copies of it are distributed to all of the ESXi hosts. So we're going to have one centralized virtual switch configuration instead of these virtual switches deployed individually on each of the ESXi hosts. And we're going to configure that centralized vSphere distributed switch in vCenter. Now, this gives us centralized management and it gives us the feel of having only a single switch to configure. Now vCenter is purely management. It's our management plane. So no traffic actually flows through vCenter, and if vCenter happens to fail, our virtual machines don't lose connectivity. The traffic actually flows in the data plane, which is made up of hidden virtual switches that vCenter distributes to all of the ESXi hosts. And we can create a distributed port group using vCenter, and the distributed port group will be pushed out to all of those little hidden virtual switches that run on our ESXi hosts. Now, things like VM kernel ports and physical adapters are a different story. Right, those are not centrally managed. We'll still need to create an individual management VM kernel port for each and every host. Right, so that task still needs to be accomplished on a per host basis.